Hey guys, Cyberwolf here, and today I'm going to be doing an article, well, a video article, on cutting out Masonite bases for your terrain. There are various ways you can cut out those Masonite bases to get yourself the nice organic shape that you will get when you're looking to actually cut out something for a forest or when you're scratch building your own hills. Now, one of the most simple tools you can actually use if you want to cut it out is a coping saw, or as some people call it, your simple old school Games Workshop hobby saw. These are actually really good and they'll do the job okay. The problem is that because the Masonite is a very hard substance, these saws have a very bad tendency of breaking while you're sawing, and I've broken a bunch of these blades sawing by hand. So the most perfect tool for the job is a scroll saw. Now when you are making these bases with a scroll saw, it's going to be a large table saw type thing, and you're going to cut them out. The problem is that your scroll saws are going to be running you anywhere in the neighborhood of $70 to $200. So that is something you're going to really need to think about. If you're going to really be doing a lot of terrain, like for if you're doing a convention or something, then maybe a scroll saw is a tool that you're actually going to want to look at getting. Now, a tool that's actually really good for cutting out Masonite is one of my favorite, which is a jigsaw. Now, this is a skill jigsaw, and the only problem with the jigsaw is that you're going to have to actually invest in clamps when you're using it. Now, I have a tendency, I like these, what they call deep throat C-clamps, so that you can secure it but not have the clamp right there on top of what you're trying to secure. And that way it stops the Masonite has a bad tendency at the 1/8 to 3/16 thickness of jumping up and down, which is kind of problematic because you lose control and the saw catches, and it can actually be dangerous. Now, one tool that actually I've found to be quite useful for cutting out these Masonite bases is my Dremel. I love this thing. If you are a miniatures hobbyist and you don't have a Dremel, get one. They do so many things, and I'm going to do other video articles about the other uses of a Dremel and the different bits that you can use, but this thing is great. The bit I'm actually using, it's kind of hard to see, but what it is, it's called a high-speed cutter, and this one's made out of tungsten. And you want a tungsten bit when you're working with most of your metals and harder substances, because tungsten is a very hard metal and it won't dull quickly. And so what I really like about these tungsten bits is that they will do the job quickly and efficiently. What I'm going to show you here is it's a half completed job, and then I'll show you kind of my technique for cutting it out. First off, what I've done here is I have taken the tungsten cutter and I've gone in and using the edge, because it doesn't do it very well at first when you're right on. So you want to use the edge and trace out a line all the way around your object. And then once you do that, once you get a good line, then you can start by going back in, and then you start just working that line and going like this. Now, I'm not saying that this is a perfect way of doing things, but for many hobbyists who don't have a tool shed or don't have a workshop like I do, sometimes it's not practical to have things like a scroll saw, or if you live in an apartment you might have nowhere to actually use like a jigsaw or something like that, because you're going to end up having to store things like sawhorses and other things that might be kind of problematic. So this using a Dremel is a really good way of kind of as a workaround for stuff in your own home so that you can cut things out. So I'm going to get on here to the demo, and I'm going to show you kind of how it works, and we'll go from there. Now, something else I'd like you guys to know, I'm a big fan of safety first. So please, when you're working with this stuff, remember safety is really important. I tend to use a pair of safety goggles, actually just safety glasses, and a dust mask. If you you don't necessarily have to use a dust mask, but the problem is that the sawdust that's created by this bit is so fine it's almost aerosolized, and so it will get in your nose and you'll be blowing wooden boogers for the next 2 days. So you might want to think about wearing a dust mask. And I'm a big fan of the protective eyewear because I've actually gotten little tiny sawdust shavings in my eyes, and it makes life absolutely miserable. So really think about your safety, and it's well worth it. Dust masks will cost you a couple bucks. Pair of safety glasses, like $20–$30. That's money very, very well spent. And so consider safety as we're doing this. We're going to get on here. I'm going to reposition the camera and show you guys how the technique I use for cutting this out, and you guys will have a good idea of how to do that. Alright, so we'll get on from there. Okay, as you guys now can probably see here, I have this clamped down to my table. It's actually a little bit safer for your hands to have your hands free of the object you're working on, because I've actually had my Dremel cut my hand up while holding these objects. So it's actually best to just kind of do it this way. That way you don't get you don't have your Dremel hitting your hand and going from there. What you're going to see here is it's really a pretty easy technique I'm going to use. What I do is I'm just going to go in and I'm just going to let the weight of the tool and the bit itself do the work for me, and it's just going to cut. It's just going to cut the line out, and it's actually quite quick. So I'm going to fire up my Dremel. It's going to be a little loud, so I apologize for that, but it's probably not too loud, but here we go. Now, as you can see, it's now cut. It's cut. I've really started cutting, and it's gotten right in there and got the stuff cut out really nice. It's going to have a ragged edge to it, so you're going to go back with your tool and smooth out the edges. Now, one thing somebody might ask is, why don't I just put the tool in there and hold it and let it kind of work? And I'll show you what's going to happen. It's kind of interesting. I don't know if the camera can show that, but if you notice, it's now smoking, and because of the fact that this is such a high-speed cutter, what it's doing, it's actually, the friction is actually hitting the heat points of the wood and causing it to actually burn somewhat. So you can do it. I've never caught the whole thing on fire, but it makes me mildly nervous. So I kind of like doing the working and just taking a little bit slower instead of just trying to power through. And that's pretty much how you do it. If you have any questions, feel free to post to the notes that we're going to show in here, or always you can ask questions in the forum. And we look forward to seeing you guys soon. Also, if you guys really like these video style articles on hobby, please let us know. We're looking at expanding the way we do things. Alright, thanks.